What if talking about culture could bring people closer instead of creating misunderstandings? New Year traditions are different all over the world, but the way we talk about them matters even more. Hi everyone, I'm Yasi, and welcome to the podcast. If you're an intermediate or upper intermediate English learner, this episode is especially for you. You'll hear real conversations and useful phrases that help you talk about culture without stereotypes. Recently, I had a thoughtful discussion with my classmates at university. We come from different backgrounds, and we talked honestly about New Year traditions, cultural differences, and how people sometimes misunderstand each other. This podcast is divided into 4 parts. In part 1, we talk about what New Year means to us personally. In part 2, we share moments that surprised us when we experienced other cultures. In part 3, we focus on how to talk about culture carefully without generalizing or stereotyping. And in part 4, we find common ground and talk about what really connects us. So, if you want to improve your English, learn how to speak respectfully about culture, and follow a meaningful conversation from start to finish. Stay focused, stay curious, and listen closely. Let's begin.
I can't believe the semester is almost over. It feels like it started yesterday, and now New Year is coming soon. Everything has gone so fast.
I know, time really moves quickly at university. For me, this time of year always feels a bit strange because New Year doesn't always mean January 1st.
Really, that's interesting. For me, it usually does mean January 1st, but I guess it also depends on the year and the people I'm with.
Exactly. In my case, the main New Year celebration is called Nowruz. It happens in March, not in winter. So it feels very different.
Oh, yes. I've heard about that before. Is it a big celebration in your culture?
Yes, for many families, it's very important. But I should say it's not the same for everyone. Some people celebrate for many days, and some keep it very simple.
I like how you explain that. It shows that culture isn't just one thing and not everyone follows the same traditions.
I agree. In Canada, many people celebrate New Year's Eve with parties or fireworks, but not everyone does.
That's true. Some people think everyone goes to big parties, but that's not always the case.
Exactly. Some people go out, some stay home, and some don't really celebrate at all.
For example, in my family, New Year is usually quiet. We might watch TV, talk together, or just relax. We don't always do something special.
That's interesting. In Mexico, is it usually a family celebration?
In my experience, yes. It's often a family time. But again, every family is different. And I don't want to generalize.
That's a good point. What do people usually do in your family?
In my family, we have dinner together and talk about the past year. We sometimes talk about good moments and difficult moments too.
That sounds meaningful and very reflective.
Yes, it is. Some families also do special traditions, but I don't want to say everyone does the same thing.
I like how careful you are with your words. It sounds very respectful.
Me too. In my family, New Year is more about being together and thinking about new beginnings, not just celebrating.
I think that idea is very common in many cultures, even if people celebrate in different ways.
Yes, even if the traditions look different, the feeling behind them is often similar.
That's true. Sometimes people focus too much on differences and forget the similarities.
I agree. I think sometimes people believe culture is one clear rule, but it's much more personal than that.
Yes, culture can be very personal and connected to experience.
Exactly. Culture is not just a country, it's also family experience and personal choice.
And even time. Traditions can change over the years.
I like that idea. It makes talking about culture easier and more respectful.
Yes, because when we talk this way, we listen more and judge less.
And it helps us avoid stereotypes and misunderstandings.
Do you remember your first New Year away from home?
Yes, I do. I remember it very clearly. It was very different from what I expected, and I felt a bit unsure at first.
Really? What surprised you the most?
I was surprised by the countdown. Everyone was watching the clock and counting the seconds together very seriously.
That's very common here, but I can understand why it felt strange if you weren't used to it.
Yes, in my experience, New Year is usually calmer.
I think that feeling is normal when you experience a new culture for the first time.
I had a similar experience when I traveled abroad. I felt confused at first, too.
I had the same feeling when I spent New Year in Canada for the first time.
What were you surprised by?
People were very friendly, but everything ended very early. I expected a longer celebration.
That's interesting. I would probably expect the same if I were you.
Yes, some people like quiet celebrations. Others prefer big events. It really depends.
At first I felt a little confused, but later I understood that it's just a different style, not better or worse.
That's a good way to think about it.
When I first learned about New Year traditions in Mexico, I was surprised by how important food is.
Yes, food plays a big role for many families. But again, it depends on the family.
I like how we keep saying that. It really helps avoid general ideas and stereotypes.
Yes, it reminds us that culture is flexible and not fixed.
At first, something may feel strange or even uncomfortable, but later you understand it better.
Yes, learning about culture takes time and patience.
And asking questions helps a lot.
I agree, it's always better to ask than to assume something.
That way, traditions become interesting instead of confusing.
And people feel more respected.
Exactly. When we listen carefully, we learn much more.
I think it's easy to make mistakes when we talk about culture, even when we don't want to.
Yes, especially when we don't know much about a culture or only know a little. Sometimes we hear one thing and think it's true for everyone.
I agree. Sometimes people mean well, but their words sound too general or too strong, and it can hurt people's feelings.
Like when someone says, all people from one country do the same thing.
Yes, even if the person doesn't want to be rude, it can sound like they are judging you.
I think the problem is that culture is complex, but language can be very simple. One simple sentence can sound like a big claim.
That's true. Simple sentences can sometimes give the wrong message, especially when the topic is sensitive.
Exactly. That's why I try to be careful with how I explain my own culture. I try to speak in a softer way.
Me too. I've noticed that it helps to say, in my experience, or in my family, then people understand you are not speaking for everyone.
That sounds much more respectful and honest. It also sounds more believable.
I also try to say, some people do this, but others don't. That helps a lot.
That's a good way to avoid stereotypes. It leaves space for different stories.
I think it also shows that you understand people are different, even inside the same culture.
Yes, and it invites the other person to share their experience too. It makes the conversation feel equal.
That's important. Conversations should go both ways. It shouldn't feel like one person is teaching and the other is being judged.
I remember I once said something about New Year traditions, and later I realized it was too general.
What did you do?
At first, I felt a bit embarrassed, but then I corrected myself and explained that it was just my experience. I said something like, "This is what I saw, but I know it may be different for others."
That's a good example. It's okay to make mistakes if you correct them. It shows you care.
Yes, learning happens when we listen and adjust, and it's normal to learn slowly.
I think many people are afraid to talk about culture because they don't want to say the wrong thing.
That's true. But staying silent can also create distance. If nobody talks, nobody learns.
I agree. It's better to speak carefully than not speak at all. We can be polite and curious.
I also think it helps to ask questions instead of making statements.
Yes, like asking, how do people usually celebrate in your family? Or, what is it like for you?
That sounds much nicer than saying people in your country do this. That sentence can sound too strong.
Exactly. Questions show interest, not judgment. They show you want to understand.
And they make the other person feel respected. People often share more when they feel safe.
I've noticed that when people feel respected, they open up more, they speak more freely.
That's very true. Then the conversation becomes more real and more personal.
I think culture is more about people than rules. Rules can't describe real life.
Yes, and people change over time. Younger people may do things differently from older people.
So culture can change too. Traditions can grow, mix, or become simpler.
Exactly. That's why it's not fair to describe a whole culture with one sentence. It's too big and too diverse.
Conversations like this help us understand that. They teach us to be careful with words.
And they help us feel more comfortable in a new culture. You don't feel lost or afraid.
They also help us feel more confident when we speak English because we learn how to express ideas carefully.
Yes, because we learn how to explain our meaning and avoid misunderstanding.
After talking about all this, I feel like our traditions are different, but not completely. We have differences, but we also have shared ideas.
I agree. The details change, but the feeling is often similar. People want to end one year and start a new one with hope.
Yes, for many people, New Year is about a fresh start. It's like a new page.
And about spending time with people you care about, even a simple meal can feel special.
Even if the celebrations look different, the reasons are often the same. People want happiness, peace, and good changes.
That's true. Some people celebrate loudly, others quietly.
Some people go out, others stay at home. Some people prefer family, others prefer friends.
But many people think about the past year and the year ahead.
Yes, they think about what went well and what they want to change. They make goals, or they just think calmly.
I like that idea. It makes New Year feel meaningful, not just fun.
Me too. It's not just about parties or traditions, it's also about feelings and plans.
It's also about reflection. People look back and learn from the year.
And hope. People want the next year to be better.
I like how those ideas exist in many cultures. That makes me feel closer to people.
It shows that people are more similar than we sometimes think. We all want good things in life.
Exactly. Differences are visible, but similarities are deeper. Sometimes similarities are quieter, but they are real.
Maybe that's why cultural conversations are so important. They help people understand each other.
Yes, they help us see the bigger picture. They remind us that culture is not a competition.
I was thinking, maybe we can create our own small tradition here at university, something that fits our life here.
That's a nice idea. Something simple and respectful, and something that includes everyone.
Yes, something that doesn't belong to just one culture, something shared.
Like having a small dinner or coffee together and talking about the year.
Or meeting on campus and sharing our plans for the next year. Even a short meeting could be nice.
I like that. It feels inclusive. It also feels modern because our lives are international now.
And it shows how culture can grow and change. We can create new traditions when we live in new places.
Yes, culture doesn't stop when people move to a new place. People bring culture with them.
It continues and mixes with other cultures, and that can create something positive.
That's one of the best parts of studying in an international environment. You learn more than just your major.
I agree. You don't just learn subjects, you learn about people and how they think.
And you learn how to communicate better. You learn how to speak carefully and listen well.
That's a skill we'll need in the future, in work, and in life.
Especially in a global world, we will meet people from many backgrounds.
Yes, understanding people is just as important as understanding information.
I'm glad we had this conversation. It made me think more deeply.
Me too. It changed how I think about culture and language.
And it reminds us to stay curious, not judgmental. That's the best way to learn. Now, before we finish, let's recap some related words from today's topic. These words will help you talk about culture more clearly and respectfully. Listen and repeat. The first word is judgmental. Having a negative opinion about someone too quickly without really understanding them. Example: try not to be judgmental when you learn about a new culture. The second word is stereotype. A simple and often unfair idea about a group of people. Example: saying that all people from one country behave the same way is a stereotype. The third word is generalize. To talk about a group of people as if they are all the same. Example: we should not generalize about cultures we don't know well. Then we had respectful. Showing care for other people's feelings, beliefs, and traditions. Example: it's important to be respectful when talking about cultural differences. The next one is make assumptions. To believe something is true without asking or checking. Example: it's better to ask questions than to make assumptions about others. And finally, common ground. Shared ideas or values that help people connect. Example: even with different traditions, we can find common ground. That brings us to the end of today's episode. I hope this conversation helped you talk about culture in a more respectful and confident way. Keep practicing these phrases and try using them in your own conversations. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.